They just have to free up some space in the account to record this. Anywho, back to content. How to posts are awesome. So just an example, homeowner tips. You could have a homeowner tip series. How to prepare your home for winter, spring, summer. How to clean your dryer vents in the spring. You know, there's tons and tons of different ideas you could do with that. And having like a step-by-step guide, I think is super, super nice, especially for new homeowners. I actually have to do all those things myself, and a lot of them I don't know how to do, so feel free to put me on your email list if you do that. Reviews and advice are awesome, especially for like frequently asked questions. So if you're getting a lot of questions on, you know, there's a lot of multiple offers happening. How do we make ours stand out? Write an email, how to win in multiple offers. Or if you work with a lot of first-time home buyers, what first-time home buyer program is right for you? So any sort of advice that you can get, the greatest part is you're showing yourself as an expert, not just on buying and selling homes, but all the other aspects that go along with that. Business updates. So the idea behind that is sort of like, you know, for us, in this situation, we moved offices a couple months ago. That's obviously a huge update. You want to make sure people know that. So I don't think we'll be moving anytime soon, but that idea, maybe if you've like upgraded your office space, or if, especially now given kind of everything going on, obviously business is running a little bit differently. So an email to your database checking in, letting them know, yeah, things look a little bit different, but business is still going. Here's how it's changed. So just really keeping up with how your business may be changing and letting your database know how that's working. And then interviews. So this is really awesome in regards to kind of collaborating with somebody, whether it's a vendor partner or somebody from your community, somebody maybe that you're on like a committee with or in a networking group with. And taking time to interview them and getting more of their expertise, sharing that with your database. And once again, one of the best parts about that is that it takes a lot off your plate in regards to writing content. So those are just a couple of ideas. I go more in depth with these in the handout that you'll all get afterwards, so no worries there. All right, and now I'm getting into the more in-depth content slides. So I have a couple slides here. There's a lot happening. So feel free to like screenshot this, or like I said, it will be in the handout. I have a couple of highlighted here that I just want to quick touch on. So a couple extra content ideas. Tips to save on a home purchase. So people love saving money. If I can find a way to save money on something, that's probably going to prompt me to open an email. What's needed for a mortgage pre-approval? Obviously highlighted that one, coming from a mortgage company. So if you're getting a lot of questions in regards to the mortgage side of things, connecting with your mortgage lender, connecting with Tanya, getting her answer for that. Home maintenance basics, so that kind of ties into those FAQs. Community festivals and events. I think this is a fun one that I don't see people do very often. I personally check Facebook, well, not as much lately, but I used to always check Facebook to see what's going on this weekend, what's going on in my area, looking for things to do. And I think especially once the social distancing is relaxed a little bit, or everything kind of maybe starts going back to a new normal still, but just sort of back to normal, people are going to be just desperately trying to find things to do, get out of the house, get to doing stuff. So I think that's going to be a really, really popular topic, especially coming up, just giving people different ideas for how they can get out of the house. Some more content ideas, so housing affordability studies. This kind of comes back into money. Like money is the biggest aspect when it comes to real estate, mortgage, what have you. So anything that kind of touches on that. Neighborhood spotlights. So if you have like a favorite coffee shop in the neighborhood, or somebody who's doing really great things for the neighborhood, maybe like somebody who's creating masks for hospitals, something like that, giving them a little shout out, a little spotlight if they have a small business, helping their small business. And possibly seeing too if they're willing to do some sort of like deal with you, like if you show this email, get 10% off or something like that. I think a lot of the time the small businesses would be pretty excited to have any sort of publicity. So it's worth an ask, worth seeing if people are willing to do that. And then this is something I talk a lot about when I talk about the 36 touch as well, is events. Honestly, you could make all of your 36 touch emails just revolve around events if you do like 4 events a year. So you have your invitation. So doing a one-off email or even a couple of them, just inviting people, like when the office does, I'm assuming spring cleaning will get postponed this year, but something like that, for the office holiday party, making sure you're inviting your database. And then what's even more interesting is doing an event recap or a follow-up. So this, I think, is almost more important to do on a one-on-one basis, but you totally can do it in a mass email as well, just to show people what these events are about. But an interesting point that I think it is Jay Papasan as well that he makes when he teaches that course as well, is that it's not the event invitation that has the most impact on your database, it's the follow-up. It's reaching out to say, I missed seeing you there. So it is just pretty interesting that just making sure somebody knows you care, that unfortunately weren't able to make it, maybe following up, trying to schedule a coffee, something like that has more impact on your business than the invitation in itself. So I just think that's a really interesting point. And this is obviously not a full list of what you could do for your email content. And something that I always just recommend is taking a look at examples. So doing a quick Google search for real estate newsletter ideas, things like that. Definitely don't plagiarize, but I think it is good to see what's successful for other people and just what seems to be working. Some general content tips. And I talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, but write as if you're writing to one person, both in the subject and the body. So when somebody feels like it's personalized to them, they're going to be a little bit more receptive to it versus if it feels like a mass email. Writing quality content, you're probably saying, well, duh. But if your readers find your content to be interesting, so say you start sending out a couple of these emails, they're interesting, they're engaging, they're informative, those people knowing that they're on your list will come to expect that type of content, and your open rates will increase if they know what they can expect is good quality. And really what you want to focus on is quality over quantity. So it's not about sending out an email a week. It's about sending out 1 or 2 emails a month that really hit home on a particular subject, whether it is a market update or tips and tricks that you want to share, FAQs. It's really more so about getting that information out there in a clear and concise way versus just kind of spamming their inboxes. Sending from a person, not a company. So this is basically kind of when you set up an email account. So more so when you're setting up like a MailChimp, having it come from you as a person, not necessarily a company. So not Keller Williams, not even necessarily your team name. As long as your first and last name are in there, I think you can have your team name, but people want to see something from you as a person, not necessarily from a brand. If you have extra time, this is a huge tip, make templates to use for future months. So it's going to save you time and stress later. If you're doing any sort of custom newsletter and you find that you have an extra hour, whip out another one and save it for the next month. If you start doing that, it's just going to kind of make your life a little bit easier. And you could, if you so chose, like if you had a couple hours to kill, you could set up even like a whole year's worth of content. So like if you want to do a homeowner tips series, you could set up 12 of those emails, schedule them out. You can always go back and edit the content if you want to make an update to it. But it's just something to keep in mind versus like if you try to get your email out on the 30th of every month versus waiting until the 28th to try to write everything, just to save yourself some time and your stress.
Mary?
So yes.
Mary, can I ask just real quick, what would you recommend,
Yeah.
what program would you recommend putting your email into and making templates?
So I'll go in a little more depth at the end, but it kind of depends. Overall, it depends on a couple things: time and customization. So you can send emails through command. The templates are very basic. There's a little less that you can do. They do have smart plans, like I said. You can use those neighborhood nurture smart plans to replace like doing a custom market update. But like I said, I personally am very kind of a control freak over my content that goes out. So I think MailChimp is a little bit superior when it comes to being able to jazz it up a little bit more. However, it does take more time. So it's just, there's just more you can do with it. And I mean, it's a tool that's been around for a lot longer, so it makes sense. And so it's not that command won't have those same functionalities. It's just that it doesn't right now. Right. So if you're looking for something with a little bit more control, a little bit more customization, I would recommend MailChimp every single day.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I will touch on even more in depth on that.
Okay.
Thank you for asking a question, Terry. While I'm going to pause here anyway, does anybody else have any questions so far on just like content ideas, content that you've seen that you really liked, anything like that? Okie dokie, heading into subject lines. So as I said at the beginning, subject lines are as important as the content of your email because it's really the headline. It's what's going to convince people to click on your email. It's not necessarily going to be the first thing you think of, and it does sometimes take a little bit of finagling to really find the best verbiage. Something that I thought was pretty interesting, according to MailChimp, the average real estate industry open rate is 17%. It's not a very high open rate. So I can't read too much into that. I mean, I'm obviously not, it's a case-by-case basis. But I think that does show that there's a lot of room for improvement when it comes to real estate newsletters, real estate content, what have you. So the biggest thing to consider, one of the biggest things is keeping your subject lines concise. So a report by Retention Science found that subject lines with 6 to 10 words delivered the highest open rate. So that's not very long. And this is probably where I struggle the most is I write something out, I realize it's way, way, way too long. And one of the main reasons why you want to avoid those long subject lines is that now over half of emails are opened via a mobile device. So you really don't want any of that information cut off in their inbox, especially if, you know, the big meat of your subject line is towards the end. Somebody's not going to open it if they can't see it right away. So just interesting to note that those short but sweet subject lines seem to work the best. Along with that, finding ways to make it personalized. So as I mentioned towards the beginning of the class, people are a little bit more receptive to something if it sounds like you're talking to them. So subject lines that have been personalized can raise open rates as much as 20%. So that's a pretty significant amount, especially given the fact that real estate is only about 17% on average. So an easy way to do that is adding a merge tag. So if you're not familiar what a merge tag is, and if you were to go through your emails, you would absolutely find these used in emails to yourself from various brands. But it's basically adding a little snippet of code where you want their first name to be. So what I have written there is actually the one that MailChimp uses. Each program is a little bit different. But that specifically is MailChimp. You can also, what I recommend is Googling MailChimp merge tags, and you can find an entire article, a walkthrough of how to use them. But it is just a nice way of making something a little bit more directed to a specific person, making it a little bit more personalized. Not necessarily using a name, but a couple other things, so saying you, or like my gift to you, or for my beloved clients only. It's a feeling of exclusivity. It's making somebody feel special for opening it. You can also make it personalized based on location. So if you're sending this email to a group of your past clients and your past clients are primarily in like the general Minnetonka area, sending out an email saying my top 10 Minnetonka restaurants. So it's no longer just based on their name, but it's based on where they live. So you're connecting to them on a personal level, still without even necessarily using their name. Another good rule of thumb is asking a question in your subject line. It's a great way to immediately engage a reader because in their head it's kind of prompting them to either want to answer it or want to learn the answer to it. Open-ended questions are best so that somebody can't just read it and have a quick no, like this isn't relevant to me. So just a quick example that's relevant now is how can you safely sell your home during COVID-19? Somebody can't just say no to that. They're going to start thinking about it. They're going to wonder, well, I don't know. How do I safely sell my home during COVID-19? So it's giving them a reason to want to find out the answer to something. So I know for my own sake, I love looking at analytics on social media posts, emails, what have you. And it is pretty interesting to see what subject lines do have the most impact. And we typically see good results when it has a question in it. This is just a very short list of examples. The handout I will send out to everybody after has way more than this in it, it's a whole page of subject line examples. But these are just a couple. So that's an example of where you would use the first one, where you would use that merge tag. So Mary, comma, how have you been? So maybe that's one you use if you haven't already sent an email to your database checking in on how they're doing. So that's not even necessarily business related. It's just the way of you making sure that your database people are doing okay, if they need somebody to talk to, if they have questions. If you haven't done something like that yet, I totally recommend it. I think people, if you're coming from a place of it being genuine and checking in, people do react very positively to that. A couple others I'll check on. So what you should know about the Minnetonka housing market. I don't know. What should I know? Up and coming neighborhoods in this popular area. Here's your private invite. Ooh, what am I invited to? Or that last one word, crazy. Okay, what's crazy? You're catching attention. You're prompting them to ask a question and want to find out a little bit more. So these are just a couple examples. And if you joined the call a little bit later, I mentioned to everybody at the beginning, just comment your name in the chat box so that I know who to send the handout to afterwards. The handout is really kind of all-encompassing of everything we're talking about here. Making it visually appealing. Before I move on, any questions on subject lines? Cool. Visually appealing. So this is where it definitely comes more into what tool you're using. But in general, a lot of these aspects kind of work no matter what you're using. So making sure your content is formatted for mobile. So that's probably first and foremost one of the things you should check on. The nice thing is both Command and MailChimp have preview modes where you're able to see how your email is going to show up both via, both via inbox and mobile. So that's just a nice way of checking, making sure everything looks normal. Using images and buttons with a description of where links are going to. So that little blue button, that's straight from MailChimp. It's a call to action button. They're able to click right on it. It's a lot easier to see than just kind of embedding that in, as like a click here, just little text. Being consistent with branding and layout. So this is where branding becomes definitely more important. So in the layout, if you have a color scheme you use, if you have a personal logo, make sure that is in your layout. I'm not as familiar with Command in that sense, but I know with MailChimp, you have full control over colors of fonts, and like that button you see down there, I could turn that into any color I wanted. You can add an image wherever, so you could add a header with your logo, what have you. So making sure you're including your branding in there and finding a layout that really works for you. I would definitely say, and if you were on the call at the beginning, you already heard me say this, but your first email is going to take you the longest. I know I went back and forth like a million times or changed things a couple of times, but once you have that first template, all you're going to have to do after that is just replicate it and then swap out the info. So making sure you find a layout you like. That's another thing, where do a quick Google search for real estate newsletter layouts or email newsletter layouts. You can find quite a bit of inspiration out there, and then attempt to kind of recreate it in something like MailChimp. You want to make sure you have a balance of verbiage and visual. I would say this is definitely something I struggle with sometimes, is not getting too wordy. I know you want to get a lot of information to people. So finding ways to maybe balance that with visuals, so photos, videos, possibly including links to replace long verbiage. So if you want to like share an aspect of an article, maybe just linking directly to the article versus going into a full explanation of it. Or if it's like a definition of something, linking to the dictionary.com definition versus giving the definition in your email. Just finding ways to make things a little bit more concise while still having all the necessary links, information that people need to fully understand what you're trying to convey. Next is images. So as I mentioned, you definitely want visuals for balance. So if a client's email does not have images enabled to download right away, and a lot of them don't, something called alt text will show until the image is downloaded. So basically what that means is how you're naming your images. And this for me was a huge surprise when I first learned about it, in that the way you name your images actually has quite an impact. So in this situation, if you are including a listing photo and it's 123 Main Street, having it named 123 Main Street, when it goes to somebody's inbox, if that image doesn't download right away, they're still able to see what you named it. So a lot of the time you see that little image name show up instead of the actual image until it fully downloads. So at least they know before it actually downloads what they can expect versus just the other example, image 098. So this isn't email related, but another kind of cool thing is that the way you name your images also has an effect on your search engine optimization. So on your website, if you're uploading your headshot or you're uploading your team logo or you're uploading any sort of image that's going into your website, make sure you're being conscientious of how you're naming them. So if it's your headshot, having your first name underscore last name. If it's your logo, team name underscore Keller Williams, what have you. Because having just that verbiage in there, Google's picking up on that, and that can help with your search engine optimization. So little tangent, but I think it's a pretty cool thing that I know blew me away the first time I heard it. Next thing, and you definitely heard me talk about this if you've ever been to one of my classes, making sure your photos are your own or via free sites. So please don't just do a random Google search and pull the first photo you find. I will say there are workarounds, like there's advanced search options you can do in Google Photos to find free photos, but if you're not familiar with how to do that, either email me or use one of those 3 websites right below it. So I use these all the time. I've never had to pay for stock photos. So I use Pexels.com, Pixabay.com, and Unsplash.com. I recommend checking out all 3 depending on what kind of photo you're looking for. They each have different content on there. But there's tons and tons of different stuff you can use. So just avoid using Google Photos. I don't want anybody getting, sued for copyright infringement. And then on top of using photographs, absolutely create custom graphics, headers, other visual aspects in Command Designs or Canva. All of our headers were done in, I think, Canva, or we add, you know, like a cute little star banner that we made through there, just different visual aspects to kind of break up some of the verbiage. Next is video. So embed video whenever possible. So based on what I've seen, it's not an option yet in the command templates, but it is an option in MailChimp, either via uploading or if you have the link from YouTube. The nice thing about video, and there's a couple nice things. So you're able to include a lot of info without taking up much space in the email itself. So you still don't want to do maybe like a 20-minute video because chances are nobody's going to watch the full 20 minutes, but it is nice to include a short video in there, maybe of you answering one of those frequently asked questions or giving that market update, or if it's a video blog, something like that. And some pretty cool stats in regards to that, it does increase open. So just having the word video in your subject line can increase opens by 19%. Wild. And then it can also increase clicks. So having the actual thumbnail in your email can increase clicks up to 50%. So pretty cool reasons as to why you should be including video. Video marketing is just in general is not going anywhere. It's only getting more popular. If that's something, if you want to do a co-branded video or you want to talk about video content, shoot me an email, shoot Tanya an email. Tanya's the video queen, even more so than me. I hate being on video sometimes, but it's necessary. People love it. It shows in those stats. So definitely take advantage of including that in your newsletters. Making sure you're testing. So if you're like me, you're paranoid that something's not going to look right. Uh-oh, why am I hearing myself? Is somebody unmuted? Okay. So testing. So making sure you're sending a test email to yourself before you send it to everyone else. Something else that I do is, because I have an Outlook email, but I know most of you have Gmail. So I'll send it both to my Outlook and to my Gmail, just so I can see the formatting in both, because sometimes it does change a little bit. The nice thing is you're able to, like sometimes you maybe don't remember to update a link or you don't remember to swap out some verbiage. So it just kind of gives you a way as just like a second look before you email it out. One thing to note, in MailChimp, you are limited to how many tests you can send out to yourself. So I've never reached my limit, and I send out quite a bit, so you should be fine, but it is just something to be aware of. But I do recommend doing that before you send out anything. So the next thing is clickable contact and social info. So basically what you're doing is you're just making it as easy as possible for somebody to contact you. The nice thing with Command, they do have a newsletter specific template in there if you haven't looked at it. It has your contact info listed at both the top and the bottom. And if you chose to, you could have it in the text in there as well. The only kind of bummer about that is you're not able to create custom links that I have found in their newsletter template. So you wouldn't be able to have a link maybe in the body of your text. In MailChimp, it's a little bit different. So you can essentially put the contact information wherever you want. So I definitely recommend having it throughout, linking it. And then they also have social media buttons, which you can see right below that. Those are really nice just for adding an extra visual aspect. They have pretty much every social media I've ever seen to be able to do it. Some I've never even heard of. But so like in this case, we have Facebook, Instagram, website, LinkedIn, email. So just a really easy way of calling attention to social media, easy links, etc. So just making it easy as possible for people to contact you. Calls to action. So this is probably one of the most important aspects of your content itself. You want to make it big and bold, but you also want to make it clear and concise. Before you write your call to action, figure out what your goal is. So this is going to depend for one, on the overall content of your email. So you're probably not going to know your call to action until you've written out the full content. I'm seeing a question. So from Terry, MailChimp charges now, right? Or is it if it's sent out to thousands of people? So great question, Terry. MailChimp, I will be honest, I've used it since college, so I've used it for just years. They have gotten a little bit tighter when it comes to their free features. However, it is still free. So you can send, I believe it's up to 12,000 emails a month. So chances are you're probably not going to hit that threshold unless you have like 5,000 plus people in your database. And at that point, I would say you should probably scrub that. But as of what I know now, it is free up until 12,000 emails, along with, I believe it is 2,000. It's either 2,000 or 2,500 contacts. The caveat, you can only have one list of people, but similar to Command, you can have tons of tags. So MailChimp, still free for the most part. We've never had to upgrade, so definitely worth creating that account. And actually something to note as well, you actually have to have a MailChimp account if you even want to send email through Command. So there's that to be aware of as well. Continuing with the call to the action, like I said, once you have your content written, that's kind of when you're deciding what you want your call to action to be. So it's really your goal. Are you trying to drive traffic to your website? Are you trying to get people to accept an invite to an event, enter a contest, download a guide, see new listings? The list goes on. So that's what you want to think of before you start writing it. And you want to get creative beyond just contact me or reach me or call me. Why are they going to contact you? You want to be providing something of value and essentially verbalizing what that thing is. So on this next slide, these are just a few examples. So the home selling process, download the ebook. Do you have some sort of guide that you've written? I know in Command, you can actually create buyer and seller guides. So maybe if you make one that isn't necessarily like client specific, maybe it's area specific, or maybe it's, you find other ways around it. You could create your own ebook straight from Command Design, which is awesome. Free movie event, claim your tickets here, get today's real estate market data, find out how much your home is worth, learn more about this property, et cetera, et cetera. So you're straight up verbalizing what the benefit is, and you're still prompting people to reach out to you. So some of these are a little long, but I think it's mostly important of getting your point out, and also getting a little bit more creative than just contact me. So just kind of recap that idea, write your content, figure out what your goal from there is, write your call to action, and make sure it's easy for people to act on that action. So if it's downloading an ebook, for example, in MailChimp, you can have like some, if you create a button, you can have it connected to a PDF. So if you have an online PDF, that could essentially be downloading the ebook. If it's a free movie night event and you have it through Eventbrite, make sure you have that link right to Eventbrite. If it's get today's real estate market data, maybe it takes them to a landing page that you've created in Command. Learn more about this property, it takes them to your Command site on that specific listing. Enter to win takes them to a contact form on your website. The cool thing is, a lot of these actually end up taking them to your website or to a Facebook page or to some sort of branding to you. So you really, really want to use verbiage that's going to prompt people to go there, because as soon as they're there, chances are there will be more exploring done. They might not just stay on that one landing page. So just something to note about call to action. I also recommend, and you keep hearing me say this, but Google is everyone's best friend, checking out call to action examples, because obviously these might not specifically be relevant for the email you're writing. So just kind of looking up tips, what other people have done, just getting an idea for what works. So those are calls to action. A couple other insights. So measuring results. most platforms, I don't know of one that doesn't, are going to give you some sort of analytics. So whether that's like looking at what emails get the most open, what links get the most clicks, and I will be honest, because I'm such like a nerd for this kind of thing, it's one of my favorite things about MailChimp specifically. So not only can you see like open rates, unsubscribes, etc., you can get a specific, like if I look at a specific email that I sent out, I can see if somebody unsubscribed specifically from that email, or like what emails bounced on it, what have you. So if I realize that I just lost, 50 people from one email, chances are I did something wrong. Or who specifically is opening the email and how many times. So not only can you see like, oh, okay, I got a 36% open rate. Awesome. You click into that, you find out who those 36% people were and how many times they opened it. To give you an example of where this was really beneficial for us, was we sent out an email about refinancing. So looking for people who are maybe looking to refinance, since it's still a really good time to do that with low rates. And we noticed certain people reopened it, clicked on a bunch of the links like 17 times. It was an insane amount. So at that point, that's telling us that that person might be somebody to reach out to. It's helping you kind of organize who you should maybe call the next day and connect with. So really nice ways of connecting you with maybe the people that are going to be the most relevant to you. So in your case, it might not be an email about refinancing, but maybe it's an email about why now is a great time to buy or sell. And you have somebody that's clicking on a lot of the links, and maybe that's a spark to you that this person might be ready. I should reach out to them. So on top of that, the links specifically that people are clicking on. So that's really nice to know if you have a lot of links in your email, which ones are actually getting the most traffic. So just if you're into that like me, you're going to love their analytics, because there's just so much you can learn from it if you take the time to kind of analyze it a little bit. So that's pretty cool. I will be 100% honest. I haven't sent out an email from Command yet, so I don't know what their analytics look like. If anybody has and wants to comment, I would love to hear your insights on that. Email platform. So you've obviously heard me drone on and on and on about MailChimp and about Command. So there's obviously a ton out there. You're not just limited to those two, but I would say those are probably your biggest two in terms of, for one, Command, you all have access to it. They make it really easy with a lot of pre-made templates. And then you have MailChimp, which is what I'm most familiar with. But I personally know people that use BombBomb, which is great for video. I know people that use Constant Contact, which is a lot of kind of like pre-made fluffy content. But the thing is, a lot of these do come with a cost, or you're limited with the features. And while you are limited with MailChimp as well, I do want to highlight some of the free features that they do have. So you can sign up for free. Like I said, if you even want to send out emails through Command, you do have to have a MailChimp account. So either way, you should probably be signing up. As I mentioned, you can have up to about 2,000 subscribers and send out 12,000 emails a month. That's a lot of emails. So like I said, chances are you're probably not going to hit that threshold. But if you see at the bottom, you can upgrade your account if you want to add more subscribers, lists, etc. Something that they've changed recently that I will be hella honest, bugged me a lot, is that you used to be able to have as many lists of people as you want. So like in our situation, I work with multiple offices. I would maybe have a list for one office, a list for another office, a list for my personal contacts, what have you. That's no longer a thing. However, similar to Command, you can have tags. So you can use as many tags as you want. People can have multiple tags. So there is still, it's basically the exact same process as you would use if you're sending out, information to somebody in Command based on a tag. It's going to be the same for Command. So you can upload technically as many lists as you want. They're just going to have a different tag, if that makes sense. They have automation capabilities based on specific triggers. So like if somebody signs up for your newsletter, they could get an automatic welcome email, something like that. And you can get custom sign-up forms that can be added to your Facebook page, website. So that would be pretty cool for prompting people to join your newsletter. So not only are you then sending it out to your friends, family, et cetera, but then you're also building your database. So I recommend grabbing that sign-up form, embedding it on your website. If that's something you'd like to do, feel free to touch base with me. Another question, can you retarget that group through MailChimp? Can you upload tags, or do you have to redo the tags for each content or each contact? So for retargeting that group through MailChimp, Terry, I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% positive. I haven't personally done it, but I will look into that for you 100%. And then the next thing, you can. So when you're uploading any sort of spreadsheet into MailChimp, and the nice thing is really all you need is a first name, last name, email. You don't need any other info. You can select the tag as you're uploading them. So it's just kind of nice so that you don't have to individually go through every single person. If you already have a MailChimp account, like you've had, like me, I've had mine for years, before you start adding more contacts, I recommend going in and tagging those people, just so that they don't get like accidentally in the same email as like others if you're not trying to send it out to everybody. So just making sure everybody in your MailChimp account has some sort of tag. Obviously, some emails could be relevant to everybody. So at that point, you're just going to send it out to everybody in the list. But there are situations where you might want to send it to a very specific group. So in those situations, tags are going to be your best friend. Free reports and data insights, as I mentioned, that's a huge benefit. You have the ability to schedule emails to go out at a certain date and time. Right now, that's not an option in Command. I don't think. I was in there today and I didn't see it. You can preview it so you can see what it'll look like. You can save it as a draft, but unfortunately you can't schedule it out for later. You can also create multi-user accounts for teams. That's not something I've personally done, but I have seen that as a free feature. So just a couple of little notes about MailChimp. And now Command as well, I want to touch on. So if you want to go the Command route, as I said, you have to be connected to a MailChimp account. And if you have your MailChimp account already created, all you have to do is in Command, go to your settings and just connect it. And then a couple notes. So to actually send out, like if you wanted to send out a mass email, that actually happens from campaigns. You would go to campaigns, create a new campaign, and it's going to be the email. From there, it's going to be really similar to if you're setting up essentially anything, whether it's a Facebook post or Facebook ad. It's going to ask you for a goal, what you want to name it, the MailChimp account you're sending it from. You can choose recipients either from Command or from a MailChimp list you already have created. So that's kind of nice. And then it's just going to have you fill out the prompt, select the correct tag, and then it'll have you decide what type of content you want to do. So there's two options in Command. They have pre-made newsletter templates, which is best if you're looking for a quick and easy newsletter. It's not super fancy. It is customizable to an extent, like you can upload images, you can type out some content, but pretty basic. They also, you can create a custom template in designs. So those, I will be honest, are not my favorite. I think they have a lot of potential and will be formatted very similarly to MailChimp. But there's a learning curve there. So if you haven't played with creating an email template in Command, I'm going to recommend you do that for both Command and MailChimp just to figure out what platform is really the right one for you for now. But right now it's just not as currently advanced as MailChimp. But like I said, maybe that's better for you if you want something a little less complicated, all within Command. From there, you can choose your design, you can preview it, send it, or save it as a draft. Like I said, no scheduling feature yet. And then once it's done, you will be able to get stats and insights. I'm just not sure what that looks like just yet. So obviously that was a lot. I know I didn't go into Command or MailChimp, the platforms themselves. But I really, really want to encourage you guys, if you want to set up a one-on-one to go more in depth with MailChimp and actually like building the layout or building a layout in Command, absolutely reach out to me. I'm happy to walk through that. If you haven't added your name in the list yet, please, please do. I want to make sure you get that handout that's really all-encompassing of everything we went through today, and it'll be helpful for you moving forward. So with that being said, any other questions, feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to type it in the chat box. I'm a little worried that this might just cut out at 2 p.m., but I'm not sure yet, so we'll see. Any questions on that? Alrighty, you guys. Well, you are free to go. Thank you to everybody that participated and, in quotes, came to class. So have a great day, everybody.